Can everyone see my screen?
Yes,
Yes.
Mataji.
Yeah, okay, so let's start the recitations, please. Thank you.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadyasya yatonvaya Ditaratascharteshvabhijñasvarat Tene Brahma Hrida Ya Adikavaye Muhyanti Yat Surayaha Tejo Vari Mridam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrisha Damna Svena Sada Nirastakuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi.
Text 1. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, Son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge onto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, or Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
Dharma projita kai tavotra paramo nirmatsaranam satam Vedyam vastavamatra vastu shivadam tapatrayo nulanam Srimad-Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim va parairishvaraha Sadhyo hridyavarudyate kritibihi Shushrushubistakshanat.
Text 2. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavad Gita Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva, in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is in need of any other scripture? As soon as one is attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge of Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Nigamakalpataror galitam phalam Shukamukadamritadrava samyutam Pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam Muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavukaha.
Text 3. O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad-Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of desired tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls.
Naimishe nimishaktre kshetre rishaya shaunada kadayah satram swargaya lokaya sahasra samamasata.
Text 4. Once in a holy place in the forest of Naimisaranya, great sages headed by the sage Sakunaka assembled to perform a great 1,000-year sacrifice for the satisfaction of the Lord and his devotees.
Ta ekada tu munayah pratar huta hutagnayah satkritam sutamasinam paprachudirada madadarat.
One day, after finishing their morning duties by burning a sacrificial fire and offering a seat of esteem to Srila Sutta Goswami, the great sages made inquiries with great respect about the following matters.
Tvaya khalu puranani setihasani chanaga Akyatanyapyadhitani dharmashastrani yanyuta.
Text 6. The sages said, Respected Sutta Goswami, you are completely free from all vice. You are all well versed in all the scriptures famous for religious life and in the Puranas and histories as well, for you have gone through them under proper guidance and have spoken to explain them.
Yani veda vidam shreshto Bhagavan Badarayanaha Anye cha munaya sutta Paravara vido viduhu.
Text 7. Being the eldest learned Vedantist, O Sutta Goswami, you are the acquainted with knowledge of Vyasadeva, who is incarnation of Godhead. And you also know other sages who are fully versed in all kinds of physical and metaphysical knowledge.
Vetatvam samya tat sarvam Tatvatastadanuggrahat Bruhu snigdasya shishyasya Guravo guhyamapyuta.
Text 8. And because you are submissive, your spiritual masters have endowed you with all the favors bestowed upon a gentle disciple. Therefore, you can tell us all that you have scientifically learned from them.
Tatra jarsa yushman Bhavata yat vinishchitam Pumsame kantata shreyah Tanna samshitumarhasi.
Text 1. Please, therefore, being blessed with many years, explain to us in an easily understandable way what you have ascertained to be absolute and ultimate good for people in general.
Prayenalpayusha sabhya Kalavasmin yuge janah Manda sumanda matayo Manda bhagya hyupadruta.
Text 2. O learned one, in this fine age of holy men almost always have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, unlucky, and above all, always disturbed.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Meera Mataji and Madam Prabhu for reciting the verses. I have managed to sort out my problem. It was a very silly thing because I was listening to my lectures on the AirPods and I had not put the AirPod back in the box. So obviously the audio was connecting to the AirPod and I didn't realize it. So yeah, silly problem. Anyways, I'm back. Thank you, Jyoti Mataji. Since I am the co-host, I think I should be able to share the screen. So I'm going to try. What's that sound? It's very nice, but I don't think we want it right now. Yeah.
I can make you back to host, Mataji.
No need, no need. Because as a co-host, I'm able to share the screen. Can you all see it?
Okay. Yes, yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. I just want to start the slideshow. That's right. Okay, now everything seems to be all right. Okay, thank you very much, all of you, for joining. It's wonderful that we've now started Srimad-Bhagavatam. It does seem like a daunting task, to be honest, to like speak on the Bhagavatam. So I feel totally insignificant and a fool, but I'm just going to try my best. So I'm seeking all your blessings that I can speak something so that we all can, relish the Bhagavatam. There's so much there. There's so much to learn. There's so much to understand from the Bhagavatam. And let's hope that all of us together can help each other to understand the Bhagavatam, relish the Bhagavatam, and obviously the goal is then to surrender to the lotus feet of Krishna. Bhagavatam is Krishna himself. So today we're going to do the first verse, but before I start on the Bhagavatam, I had a brief introduction. Yesterday, we had Mukundhari Prabhu, who very kindly has given us an introduction. May I request everybody to please mute yourselves, because otherwise there is sound, background sound, and then it disturbs. So if all of you could please mute yourselves, that would be really appreciated. Thank you very much. So yes, we had introduction by Mukundhari Prabhu, which is amazing. He is, obviously spoken everything about the Bhagavatam, the history, the meters for reciting the verses, and so many other things. Just one thing that we need to understand, and I'm sure Mukundhari Prabhu spoke about that also, that, the Bhagavatam is Lord Krishna himself, and how the different cantos are the different parts of the body of Lord Krishna. The Bhagavatam is a person, as we've understood. And because it is a person cannot just be understood by intelligence alone. So in any relationship, I'm sure you all have noticed, in any relationship, one has to give in order to receive. And because we are starting on the study of Bhagavatam, let us start with the right mood, that unless we try and humbly seek to understand, we will not be able to understand the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is not something that can be understood by intellect alone. It needs the mercy of Krishna himself. To understand somebody, if that person doesn't want you to understand him, he will not allow it. And that is why what we should seek is, we should seek friendship. We should seek that we, with complete humility, try to understand the philosophy. We have to approach the Bhagavatam in a very, very, how do you call it? In a manner that you realize that the Bhagavatam is a person. Don't treat the Bhagavatam as something that is to be understood just by your knowledge and intellect. That's not how it is. And if the approach is like that, then the Bhagavatam, who is Krishna himself, will reveal himself to us. So let us all pray that we can approach the Bhagavatam in that manner, in that consciousness. And then we can hopefully, by Krishna's mercy, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and all our gurus, we'll be able to try and understand some bit of the Bhagavatam. So with those prayers, let us start. We are going to do the verse 1 today. So, so also what we are doing is, as a team, we've decided that the verse 1 itself is so long that it cannot be covered in one session. So we're going to divide the verse in, as at least 4 or 5 sessions. So in today's session, we will cover only the first 3 paragraphs of the verse 1, and then followed up by the other speakers. Again, may I request everybody to please mute yourselves. Okay, Srimad-Bhagavatam, chapter 1, Canto 1, chapter 1, verse 1. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadi asya yato anvayat itaratas charteshu abhigya swarat tene brahma hridayadi kavaye moyanti yat suraya tejo vari mridam yatha vinimayo yatrati sargo amrisha dhamna svena sada nirashta kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. The translation. O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. The purport, we are going to do 3 paragraphs. Does anybody want to read? It'll have to be a bit quick because, we are already 6:08. Or can I just continue reading?
Can I read, Mataji?
Yes, Seema Mataji, yes.
Obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, directly indicate Lord Shri Krishna, who is the divine son of Vasudeva and Devaki. This fact will be more explicitly explained in the text of this work. Shri Vasudeva asserts herein that Shri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and all others are his direct or indirect plenary portions of the portions. Srila Jiva Goswami has even more explicitly explained the subject matter in his Krishna Sandarbha, and Brahma, the original living being, has explained the subject of Shri Krishna substantially in his treatise named Brahma Samhita. In the Samaved Upanishad, it is also stated that Lord Shri Krishna is the divine son of Devaki. Therefore, in this prayer, the first proposition holds that Lord Shri Krishna is the primeval Lord, and if any transcendental, non-eminent culture is to be understood as belonging to the absolute personality of Godhead, it must be the name indicated by the word Krishna, which means all attractive. In Bhagavad Gita, in many places, the Lord asserts himself to be the original personality of Godhead, and this is confirmed by Arjuna and also by great sages like Narad, Vyas, and many others. In the Padma Puran, it is also stated that out of the innumerable names of the Lord, the name of Krishna is the principal one. Vasudeva indicates the plenary portions of the personality of Godhead, and all the different forms of the Lord, being identical with Vasudeva, are indicated in this text. The name Vasudeva particularly indicates the divine son of Vasudeva and Devaki. Shri Krishna is always meditated upon the Paramhansas, who are the perfected ones among those in the renounced order of life. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Okay. Second paragraph, somebody? Somebody
Can I
else?
do it, Madhu Kumari, please? Thank you.
Yes, Palika Mataji, yes.
Thank you. Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, is the cause of all causes. Everything that exists emanates from the Lord. How this is so is explained in later chapters of this work. This work is described by Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya as the spotless Purana because it contains the transcendental narration of the personality of Godhead Krishna. The history of the Srimad-Bhagavatam is also glorious. It also compiled by Sri Vasudeva after he had attained maturity in transcendental knowledge. He wrote this under the instruction of Sri Naradji, his spiritual master. Vasudev compiled all Vedic literatures containing the 4 divisions of the Vedas, the Vedanta Sutras or the Brahma Sutra, the Puranas, the Mahabharata, and so on. But nevertheless, he was not satisfied. His dissatisfaction was observed by his spiritual master, and thus Narada advised him to write on the transcendental activities of Lord Krishna. These transcendental activities are described specifically in the 10th canto of this work. But in order to reach to the very substance, one must proceed gradually by developing knowledge of the categories. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Palika Mataji. Any other volunteers for the?
Yes. Hare Krishna, can I say please?
Yes, please. That was Sumadhara Radhika Mataji, I think.
Okay. It is natural that a philosophical mind wants to know about the origin of the creation. At night, he sees the stars in the sky, and he naturally speculates about their inhabitants. Such inquiries are natural for man, because man has developed consciousness which is higher than that of the animals. The author of Srimad-Bhagavatam gives a direct answer to such inquiries. He says that the Lord Shri Krishna is the origin of all creations. He is not only the creator of the universe, but the destroyer as well. The manifested cosmic nature is created at a certain period by the will of the Lord. It is maintained for some time and then it is annihilated by his will. Therefore, the supreme will is behind all cosmic activities. Of course, there are atheists of various categories who do not believe in a creator, but that is due to a poor fund of knowledge. The modern scientist, for example, has created space satellites, and by some arrangement or other, these satellites are thrown into outer space to fly for some time at the control of the scientist who is far away. Similarly, all the universes with innumerable stars and planets are controlled by the intelligence of the personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Let's recite our prayers before we move on. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubheva Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Dinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine. Okay, brilliant. So, let's look at the first verse, the first prayer that Vyasadeva is reciting, and he is saying, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We recite this all the time. We are always saying Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So in the first paragraph, in the purport, Prabhupada establishes who this is, who is Vasudevaya. And clearly he is saying that this Vasudevaya, this is the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, who is Krishna himself. And Krishna is the original personality of Godhead. And then in the paragraph in the purport, Prabhupada goes on to say that it is not just a few people who are saying this. This truth has been established by so many sages, learned scholars, Lord Brahma, Arjuna, and Krishna himself. So just a few verses where actually, this is being established, that Krishna is the supreme. And like Prabhupada says in the purport, that Brahma, the original living being, has explained the subject of Sri Krishna in the Brahma Samhita. Besides the Brahma Samhita, in the Srimad-Bhagavatam 10th Canto, 14th chapter, we have the prayers of Lord Brahma. And those prayers are absolutely beautiful. If you get the chance, I strongly request all of you to go to this 10th Canto, 14th chapter and these prayers of Lord Brahma. Of course, we are meant to read every canto of the Bhagavatam, but Prabhupada has allowed us to read the prayers of these great personalities in order to inspire us. So in the prayer, the verse 11, and I'll just read the translation. Lord Brahma says, "What am I, a small creature measuring 7 spans of my own hand? I am enclosed in a pot-like universe composed of material nature, the total material energy, false ego, ether, air, water, and earth. And what is your glory? Unlimited universes pass through the pores of your body, just as particles of dust pass through the openings of a screened window." So these prayers were recited by Lord Brahma. And during our Bhagavad Gita sessions, we've heard this pastime many times. So I'm sure most of you are aware of it, probably all of you. This is where Lord Brahma is testing Krishna, because he is seeing Krishna as a young cowherd boy. Like you can see in the image, in his left hand, he is holding some chipped rice and yogurt. And he's thinking, this cannot be my Lord. This cannot be my worshipable Lord, who is playing with these cowherd boys and eating the remnants that the cowherd boys are sharing with him. And so in order to test him, he hid all the cowherd boys and the calves in a cave. And, he wanted to see, obviously, what Lord Krishna will do. And to his amazement, when he came back, he saw that all the cowherd boys and all of the calves were still present. So he was confused. He went back to the cave and he says, "Oh, but they're here also." And, this happened. And then he realized that he's made such a huge mistake that, he did not understand who Lord Krishna is. And then he recites all these prayers. But this verse is, where he's saying that I am such a small, insignificant creature. There's another pastime that is in the chapters of the Bhagavatam, where once Lord Brahma goes to meet Lord Vishnu, Lord Krishna, and we have this picture over here, and he says to the guards who were standing there that go and tell him that Brahma is here. And the guards say, which Brahma? And so Lord Brahma is thinking, why are they asking which Brahma? I am the creator of the universe. I am Brahma, And then when he goes in, he sees that he is the smallest of them all with 4 heads, but there are Brahmas with like 8 heads, 16 heads, and 24, and hundreds of heads. And he realizes that I am so insignificant. And at that time, he prays that, my Lord, you are so great. From the expansion of the expansion of the expansion, Mahavishnu, all of these universes are created. And out of all these universes, the universe that I inhabit is so insignificant. You see? So now here, think about this, that the greatest living entity of our universe, who is Brahma himself, is considering himself to be so insignificant. then what are we compared to Krishna? You see, we are not even the speck of the dust of his lotus feet. And yet Krishna is so merciful and so compassionate that he us. There's a lot of background sound. Please, can everybody please keep yourselves on mute? A humble request, because it disturbs all of us. Right, okay. So yeah, this is where then Lord Brahma is establishing that Sri Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Prabhupada also says that, Jiva Goswami says that in the Krishna Sandarbha, there are other Upanishads and Vedas where it is established. But in the Bhagavad Gita itself, in so many places, Krishna says, he himself is saying, and we know this particular verse, which is a very, very famous verse, Mata parataram nanyat kinchid asti dhananjaya mai sarvam itam protam sutre manigana eva. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So in the Bhagavad Gita, time and time again, Krishna is establishing that he is the supreme. And that's what is being spoken by Prabhupada here. And the last statement of this paragraph, Prabhupada says, the name Vasudev particularly indicates the divine son of Vasudev and Devaki. So we have to, if we are giving an identification that this Krishna is the son of Vasudev and Devaki, and this Krishna is the Supreme Lord. And Vyasadeva, who is the author of this divine literature, Srimad-Bhagavatam, before he starts actually speaking the Srimad-Bhagavatam, he is offering his prayers to this Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's established, and that is the reason why when we pray, we always pray to this Lord Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So that was the first line of our first verse. And then let's move on. Now, verse 1 defines Krishna as the absolute truth. This is very, very, very interesting and very important. What is important is in the introduction of Srimad-Bhagavatam. If you have not read the introduction, again, I advise and strongly request that please do read the introduction. In the introduction, the first statement that Prabhupada makes is, and I will read that, the conception of God and the conception of absolute truth are not on the same level. So here, the absolute truth is being defined, the first verse. And we look at each phrase so that, it stays in our mind. So the first phrase says, Janmadi asya yato. So Janma, Adi. Adi means etc. So Janma is the creation, and Adi meaning the maintenance and destruction. So here it is being said that Krishna is the primeval cause of all causes of creation, maintenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. Okay. Then the second phrase says, Anvayat itaratas chartheshu abhigya. What is being again said here is that he is either directly or indirectly conscious of all the manifestations. I'm sure you will appreciate the fact that the embodied soul is conscious of only what is going on in his or her own body. When my head pains or my back is hurting or somebody pinches me, it is only me who is conscious of those feelings of hurt, physical pain. Nobody else is. But here it is being established that Krishna is conscious of everything, not just me and you. He is conscious of everything, all the manifestations. This universe, another universe, millions and millions of universes and millions of living, non-living entities. He is conscious of everything. Okay. And then Swarat. Swarat means he is fully independent. He does not depend on anybody for anything. He is Swarat. He is completely independent. Then the next line says, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. Sorry, I'm just going to the verse so that I can read it. Yeah, it says, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye. So clearly, and we all know that when Lord Brahma was created, he didn't know what he's expected to do. He was confused. There was darkness all around. He did not know what he's supposed to do. And the Vedic knowledge was imparted unto the heart of Brahma. That is how he knew. It wasn't by reading literature like what we are doing, or it wasn't by discussing with others. It wasn't with the association. This was imparted to him from within his heart by the supreme original Lord Krishna. Okay. Muyanti yat suraya. Now, muyanti means that bewilderment. There is bewilderment. Even the great sages and the demigods are placed into illusion. I will not describe each and every Surya means great people. Even these great sages and demigods are put into illusion by the Lord. This is a kind of illusion that has been described. Tejovari mridam yata, meaning just how one is bewildered by illusory representations of water seen in fire or land seen on water. You know, and in further paragraphs, when in the purport, when Prabhupada is explaining, he talks about how when you see mirage, when you're in a desert, you suddenly see there's water on the land. Sometimes when you're driving long distance, and you know, on the roads, you seem to think there's water, which is what is being described here: land seen on water seen on land, and land seen on water. You know, all of these things. Also, if you've noticed any time when you see fire and the flames, you know, going really high up, you feel as if you can see water. These are all illusions. So just like how these are illusions, such illusions are created by the Lord, and by which even the great sages and demigods are put into illusion. Vinimayo yatrati sargo amrisa. Three sargo means the three modes of material nature. So only because of him, this material universe, which is actually temporary, but it appears, we all know that it is temporary. However, it appears factual, it appears real, because he allows us to think like that, right? And then dhamna svena sada nirashta kuhakam. This Krishna that I am offering my obeisances to, he is eternally existent in his abode, in his dham. And he is forever free from illusion. Although he is the creator of all of these things, he is free from all of this. He is out of this. He is not within this material universe. He is that Satyam Param. And Dhimahi is I meditate. I meditate on that Param Satyam, on the absolute truth. So this is briefly the understanding of the first verse. I hope this has made sense. It is a long verse. The translation is long, but when you kind of break it down, it kind of makes more sense. So let's move on. This is very, very important. And Prabhupada explains this, as I said, he explains this in his introduction very nicely, very deep explanation. So here we are saying, Satyam Param Dhimahi, I meditate on the absolute truth. What is the difference between God and the absolute truth? And the Srimad-Bhagavatam is giving us that understanding. So God means the controller, right? Whereas the absolute truth is, he is the ultimate source of everything. The absolute truth is the cause of all causes. He is the ultimate source of everything. Now, how do we understand this? And in the Bhagavad Gita also we have read that there are different, like it says here, Prabhupada says, uses the term managerial positions. Different gods have been given the control of specific activities, right? So they are all Ishvaras. They are Ishvar because they are controllers. In many of his classes, Prabhupada says, we also are Ishvar. I am Ishvar because I can control my own body, right? But the absolute truth is one without second. He is the Param Ishvar. He is the absolute. There is nobody like him. And the Srimad-Bhagavatam designates that absolute truth as the Param Satyam. And it is on this Param Satyam that Srila Vyasadeva is meditating on. And it is on this Param Satyam that all of us should meditate on. We all should meditate on this Param Satyam, on this absolute truth, who is none other than Krishna. Okay? Right. Now, in the next paragraph, then Prabhupada goes on to explain how Krishna is the cause of all causes, right? And then there are various explanations that Prabhupada gives, that everything that exists, it emanates from him. And, we talk about this in the Bhagavatam, and that is why Mahaprabhu calls the Bhagavatam.
You're jumping there?
No, I was coming out and then so it was normal, but my...
Okay. So, yes, Mahaprabhu is calling this the Amala Purana, the spotless Puran. Lord Krishna is the cause of all causes. And in a lot of different Vedic scriptures, like the Upanishads, different Upanishads, it says this. And here, Prabhupada uses this verse very, very frequently, right? Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam eko bahunam yo vidadati kama tam atmastham ye nupasyanti dhiras tesham shanti shashvati netarashim. The translation is that he is the prime eternal among all eternals. He is the supreme living entity of all living entities, and he alone is maintaining all life. One cannot do anything without intelligence, and Krishna also says that he is the root of all intelligence. Unless a person is intelligent, he cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So we can see that Krishna is the cause of all causes. He is one who is maintaining everything. So then sometimes the question is asked that if he is in all of these, how is he not affected by all of these? And very simple analogy to understand this is, suppose, I'm sure a lot of you don't play computer games, but if ever you have, and if you've seen your children playing computer games, and like here the example or the picture is of a child playing a computer game which is of car racing. So in this particular game, in the car racing, there is a time factor involved. He has to obviously race ahead of the other participants in order to win this race. And there is a time factor. But he is out of this game. He's not within it. That time factor is only controlling that particular game, but he's out of it, right? Another example, the fish that is in this bowl, or which is in a fish tank. For that fish, his entire universe is just that bowl. or the fish tank. And he cannot understand anything beyond that. We are in this material world. We are not able to understand anything beyond this material world. Yes, with the eyes of the Shastra Chakshus allows us to see this. But if we are not reading the Shastras, if we don't understand this, then for us, this world is the be-all and end-all. This one life is the be-all and end-all. We cannot imagine, or we don't think there is anything beyond that. However, Krishna is like this boy who holds this remote, who's controlling the remote. So he is outside, he's sitting there, and he is the puppeteer who is holding the strings for all of us, and he's controlling all of us. He is the cause. Everything emanates from him. Everything happens because of him. He controls everything. It says here, he is the root of all intelligence. He gives us the intelligence, but at the same time, we have to endeavor to use that intelligence in the otherwise, we will be constantly bewildered. So he gives us the intelligence, and obviously he also gives us from within, guides us how we can use the intelligence in the right way. So Krishna is the cause of all causes. There is nothing beyond Krishna. Okay. And finally, in the same paragraph, it's described that Srila Vyasadeva had compiled so many literatures. He'd written all the Vedas, the Vedanta Sutras, the Puranas, and all of that. But he was somehow not satisfied. He was just not satisfied. The reason he was not satisfied is because he had not written about the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna. And thus, when he was not satisfied, his spiritual master, Narad Muni, advised him that you must now write about Lord Krishna. So this Bhagavatam has been written by Srila Vyasadeva after he has attained maturity in all transcendental knowledge. And that is why the Bhagavatam is the cream of the cream. What is being given to us through the Bhagavatam is the best that can be. Because Srila Vyasadeva, the author of all Vedic literatures, has written the Bhagavatam when he had attained complete maturity, and with the blessings of his spiritual master, he's written this Bhagavatam. So that's being described again. But it says that in order to reach to the very substance, one must proceed gradually by developing knowledge of the categories. And that is why Prabhupada was always insistent that one must read the Bhagavatam in a systematic way. This is not some novel that you flip through some pages, read a few here and there, and then jump to the interesting part. No, because then you won't understand. So it has to be done in a systematic way. Each and every canto has to be read, and then you move on like that. And finally, in the third verse, it is the third paragraph, Prabhupada is talking about how it is natural for anybody, any human being has been given the intelligence to ask questions. So it is natural for people to ask questions, that how is it that the sun rises every day at a certain time and it sets at a certain time, and then you have the moon, you have the trees growing, you have the flowers blooming. Some flowers are pink, some flowers are purple. There's a certain fragrance for some flowers, and the leaves don't really have that much of a fragrance. How is all this happening? So an intelligent man will ask these kinds of questions. And here it is being established by Vyasadeva right at the beginning of the Bhagavatam that the answer to this is that Lord Krishna is the origin. He is the origin of all these creations. Of course, Prabhupada goes on to say that scientists who have launched these various kind of satellites, they think they're so proud of their own intelligence. What they don't realize is they've launched these satellites, but they're the ones sitting far away somewhere controlling these satellites. Today we have technology, we have computers, we have phones, we have driverless cars and driverless tubes and whatever else. But it may be driverless, but there is somebody sitting in some office somewhere controlling these cars and controlling these trains through the use of computers. The computer is a machine that if the spirit spark does not touch it, the computer will not work. Right? Like, for instance, this model that we have of our planetary system, it has not appeared on its own, right? Sorry, there's too much of noise and it's just constantly disturbing me. Sorry, I'm just going to mute everybody. Yes, so this model that we see of the planetary system, you and me, anybody with even tiny bit of intelligence will know that this could not have appeared on its own. Somebody has made it. Somebody, a spiritual spark has made it. Somebody with intelligence has made it. Who is behind the spiritual spark? When we speak of the spiritual spark, we're speaking of the soul. The soul is part and parcel of Krishna. So it is Krishna who's behind that spark. The intelligence, we just read that the intelligence is coming from Krishna. Why is it that an animal will not be able to make this kind of model? Because the animal has not been given that kind of intelligence. So the conclusion is that Krishna is the origin of all creations. Yes, the scientists may think that, everything happens by chance. But when you actually go deep and understand, you will know that all these universes with innumerable stars and planets are controlled by the intelligence of the personality of Godhead. So Krishna is the controller. So it is a little bit over time, but I have finished discussing the first 3 paragraphs of this verse. If there is any questions or comments or realizations that you would like to share, please do feel free to unmute yourselves and speak. We have a raised hand. Yes, Mataji.
Thank you so much for an excellent class. I learned a lot from this class. My question was, Mataji, if you kindly advise, you said in the very beginning when you were saying the introduction to Srimad-Bhagavatam that you need the mercy in order to understand it. Can you kindly advise how do we get that mercy, please? Thank you.
So the way you get this mercy is that you do not approach the Bhagavatam as a jnani, as somebody who wants to get knowledge. You approach the Bhagavatam in a very humble, simple manner in order to love the Bhagavatam. See, the Bhagavatam is a person. We have to understand the Bhagavatam is Krishna himself. How are we taught to approach Krishna? With love, with humility. And thus, the Bhagavatam is not different to Krishna. The Bhagavatam is not different to the holy name. Why will we are taught that if you chant the holy name with humility, with complete attention, then the holy name will reveal itself. The same way the Bhagavatam will only reveal itself if you approach it with surrender, with humility, trying to make friendship with the Bhagavatam, not trying to say, I'm going to learn all the verses, I'm going to learn everything by heart, and I'm going to become a master of Bhagavatam. That is not the goal. So the consciousness has to be humility.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Yes, Hema Mataji. Hema
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna, Mataji. Thank you. Amazing class. Thank you so much. Mataji, you said we need to approach Bhagavatam in humility, which means kind of the Dasi bhav. So I was wondering do we need to be familiar or aware of the other rasas, the Madhurya or the Sakhya or the Vatsalya, in order to understand the later cantos and chapters of the Bhagavatam?
Okay, so again, this is my understanding. Srila Prabhupada, when he gave us all these books to read, obviously he wanted us to read all his books systematically. So we were expected to read the Bhagavad Gita first and then come to the Bhagavatam and obviously read other books that Srila Prabhupada had written so that we would have some bit of understanding of who is Krishna? Who am I? What is my relation with Krishna? What are the different kinds of relationships that are there? However, at the same time, Srila Prabhupada also gave us books like Teachings of Queen Kunti, which is actually, a further chapter in the Bhagavatam, in the first canto itself. So it is not like that you have to know everything, because the Bhagavatam obviously is going to reveal all these rasas to you. But the main qualification for understanding the Bhagavatam is you do it in the association of devotees. It doesn't matter that you have not finished studying the Bhagavad Gita completely, because you will never. You keep studying the Bhagavad Gita for your entire life, because the Bhagavad Gita also reveals itself. 10 years back, what I understood of the Bhagavad Gita, and today when I read it, is completely different. So you read, you are encouraged to read the Bhagavatam also. It doesn't matter whether you finished understanding the Gita or no. But the approach, like we said, is yes, humility. Doesn't matter if you don't know the rasas, or doesn't matter if you don't know a lot of the philosophy. Approach it with humility, but in the association of devotees. Very, very important that you do it in the association of devotees. And that is why Srila Prabhupada has this in all of his ISKCON centers. In the morning, we always have the Bhagavatam class, and in the evening, we have the Bhagavad Gita class. And he encouraged all of his disciples, whether they had just joined the movement 1 month or 2 months back, or whether they were there for years and years, everybody was encouraged to read the Bhagavatam and give classes on the Bhagavatam. So nothing should hold us back. This is divine transcendental literature. And if we approach it with humility, trust me, it will reveal itself. It doesn't matter if you know anything beforehand or not.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Madhu Kumari, dear Madhu Kumari. Oh, wonderful. Such a wonderful introduction to this our Srimad-Bhagavatam. And also once you start reading and hearing, Krishna gives us this realization that Bhagavatam is Krishna. And
Yes.
more we dedicate ourselves to hear more, and he gives us the understanding. We have no power to understand ourselves, definitely not. He
Yes.
gives us the understanding. So what we need to understand, he gives us. So he's a person.
Yes.
Definitely, through our hearing, more we eager to hear, more we want to know, and because he's in our heart as a super soul. So he gives us the understanding of how much I am capable of understanding.
Yes. Yes.
That's how it comes. This is my understanding also.
Yes, yes. See, what we have to also realize is all these Vedic verses, each of these verses, they either give us the Sambandha Gyan, the Abhidya Gyan, or the Prayojan. Now, this particular verse, the verse 1, actually gives us the Sambandha Gyan. How? Because it is describing who is Krishna. So it is describing who is Krishna, and thus, what is my relation to Krishna? We can see that Srila Vyasadeva, who is the literary incarnation of Krishna himself, is paying his obeisances. That is my relation to Krishna as well. I'm also supposed to pay my obeisances to Krishna. So this first verse of the Bhagavatam actually is giving us the Sambandha Gyan that we have with Krishna. And all our Vedic verses actually, we can put them in these 3 categories. Either they give us the Sambandha Gyan, the Abhidya is how we then approach, and the Prayojan is the goal. What is going to happen if I do it? So these 3 categories is always there. So this particular verse is giving us the Sambandh. So like Palika Mataji, you said, it is a relation. You have to build that relation. When you build that relation, then according to your capacity, Krishna will reveal himself through the words of the Bhagavatam.
Thank you. Also, those 2 examples you gave, the game they're playing, the children were playing, and the fish in the bowl. It shows that fish know only, he thinks that that's the whole world.
Yeah.
But that's not the way. Also, this boy is thinking he's controlling that, the speed it's going. This is a very wonderful example of what you are trying to give us. This knowledge is really very simple, but it's very profound.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mother Kumari.
All glories to our previous acharyas and speakers.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Before we move on to any other question, there's just one announcement. A lot of members have joined new on this group. And as you will notice, we have volunteers, we have members from our congregation, from our group who recite these verses. So if any of you would like to recite the Bhagavatam verses, then you please Mataji, whose contact number will be in the chat box. Okay. So you can just contact her, let her know that you're interested in reciting verses, and then they will be in touch with you to create the rota for next month. Okay, I have a question here on the chat box. What is the conception of God referring to? Conception of Shri Krishna. The text said Krishna and absolute truth are different. No, Krishna and absolute truth are not different. Krishna and absolute truth are the same. The idea is God is a controller. God, he controls things. The absolute truth is somebody from whom everything is emanating. I'll tell you exactly what it is. But there can be many controllers. So we can have many gods or many Ishwaras, many controllers. But the Param Ishwar is the absolute truth, who is Krishna. Okay? Hope that makes sense, Surabhi Mataji. And then I have another message. Why Lord Krishna's name is mentioned as Vasudeva and not Krishna at many places in the Bhagavatam, please? So Krishna is referred to by many different names depending on the particular Leela that is being enacted. So sometimes he is called Parthasarthi because he is the charioteer of Arjuna. Sometimes he is called, other names like Vasudeva when he's being addressed as the son of Vasudeva. Queen Kunti addresses him like that as well because she is establishing that relation that I am Vasudeva's sister and you are Vasudeva's son. So you are my nephew, but you are still the Supreme Lord. So what happens is these different addresses, these different names are taken by the devotees depending on what relation they have with Krishna and what particular Leela is being enacted at that time. But Krishna, Krishna means all attractive. And Krishna has got, of course, many different names. You can address him with so many different names. We address him as Krishna, as the all attractive one, because that actually has all of the other names within it. I hope that answers.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare
I have a
Krishna.
question, please. So, we mentioned that Krishna is the controller and Krishna is the doer, but then, and sorry if this is slightly off topic, when there's people do negative things, for example, then Krishna is not the doer, right?
So Krishna is never the doer. Krishna is the controller. The doer is individual souls who are actually acting under the modes of material nature. So the doer is also not me independently. I'm not independent in doing my actions, but I am committing or I'm doing those actions based on my past karma, based on the kind of body that I've been given, based on the modes of material nature that are acting on me. So Krishna, not really the doer. Now, when we talk about evil, so I'll give you a nice analogy. What is darkness? What is darkness?
It's when there's no light.
Correct. So darkness does not exist by itself, right? Darkness cannot exist by itself. Darkness is the absence of light. Likewise, evil is the absence of Krishna. So when a person does not turn towards Krishna and decides to turn away from Krishna, that is evil. You see? So evil cannot exist without good, because actually what is evil? Evil is, there's no evil as such. Evil is not an independent entity, like how darkness is not independent. You cannot describe darkness without referring to light. You cannot describe evil without referring to good. So evil actually is just the lack of presence of God or Krishna. That is what is evil. So when a person is committing evil activities, again, we are under the influence of this material world that we are in. We are in this material world because we wanted to be independent. We wanted to do things on our own. That is why we've come to this material world. And that is why some of us, under the influence of the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance, we do different kind of activities based on what has been our past karma. Bear in mind that all of us are carrying our past samskaras, our past, thoughts, which you might not realize is there. But why is it that one child is different to another child, even though they're born in the same family and are being given the same kind of upbringing? That's because they're carrying something from their past lives. Okay?
Thank you, Mataji.
Hope that makes sense.
Yes.
Sakshi Mataji, the name of the Mataji is Rasalila, and she has kindly texted on the chat group. Her number is there. So you can take her number and you can get in touch with her. So they are creating the rota for next month, and then everybody can get the chance to recite the verses.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Everybody is satisfied? There's a lot to take in. The Bhagavatam, I mean, even the Bhagavad Gita is a lot to take in, but the Bhagavatam is really, really deep. So yeah, it's so nice that we all can discuss it together, because, I'm learning so much as well. So thank you all of you for joining. And I hope you continue to join every single day, because if you miss a session, you will miss the nectar of the Bhagavatam. So please, I encourage all of you to try and join every single day. Sorry, Surabhi Mataji, I know you have a question. Is it okay if I answer your question individually? Because I know it is almost 4 to 9. I don't want to keep everybody else waiting.
That's all right. Thank you.
All right, so I will answer your question.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Vanchakalpatruvascha kripa sindhubha evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Mataji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you very much for the wonderful class. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Mataji.